Last week was a real lesson in humility. Between the chaos at Spa and the struggle to stay on track at the Nürburgring, the Porsche Cup showed me that I'm just not ready for that level of competition yet. I've realized that to enjoy this hobby, I need to be honest about my current skill level and the time I have to practice. Instead of fighting a car that I can't quite handle, I've decided to take a step back and focus on the basics in the Mazda Cup. Since I don't have the track for the Toyota series this week, I headed over to Circuito de Navarra for week 3 of the global Mazda MX-5. I'm putting the big goals aside and focusing purely on my driving and my safety rating. I want to get back to a place where I feel in control of the car, rather than just surviving the race. The transition was much harder than I expected. Coming straight out of the high-horsepower Porsche, the Mazda felt like a toy in my hands. I felt like I had no control over it, and my inputs were all wrong because my brain was still trying to drive the 911. It was frustrating enough that I decided not to force it. I just turned off the sim and walked away for the day. Coming back the next day made all the difference. My muscle memory finally reset, and after sitting down to watch a few tutorials on how to properly navigate the lines here at Navarra, I started to feel the car again. I'm not going into this race with big ambitions. I just want to drive well, stay clean, and enjoy the racing again. To my surprise, I managed to take pole position with a 1 minute 59 seconds and 11 milliseconds. Honestly, it was a better result than I expected for my first race back, especially after how much the Porsche Cup had hurt my confidence over the last few weeks. Seeing my name at the top of the board felt good, but it also changed the mood instantly. Starting from pole brings a different kind of pressure and stress. You aren't chasing anyone. You're the target. But I stayed focused on my original goal. No matter where I started, I was dedicated to doing my best, and, most importantly, keeping the race clean. I knew the first few corners would be the real test of whether I could keep my head cool. Once we cleared turn 8, I started to find my rhythm and put some air between us. After a successful run through the last sector, I managed to pull the gap out to 1.2 seconds by the end of lap 1. It was the best possible start to the race. The driver in second place was clearly on the same page as me. They raced carefully, especially through those critical first 5 corners. No crazy dive bombs or desperate moves. I've definitely criticized low safety rating lobbies in the past, but I'm realizing that was probably just a prejudice. Clean drivers are everywhere, and I truly believe they are the majority of the community. To be honest, I was actually the dirty driver a few times later this week in the Mazda, and you'll see some of those moments later in the video. I managed to keep my head down and just focus on hitting my marks lap after lap. By the end of the race, I had increased the gap to 3.5 seconds, securing the win in what turned out to be a very calm and controlled run for me. After the stress of the previous weeks, having a race where I could just breathe and drive was exactly what I needed. The numbers look good too. I walked away with +9.4 iRating, bringing me up to 1394. It's a solid step back in the right direction, and honestly, after a week like this, I have absolutely nothing to complain about. It feels good to have a good race after a while. Now, I want to take you to another race, my third of the night in the Mazda series. I managed to take pole position again with a 1 minute 58 seconds and 9 milliseconds. Seeing that time felt good. It was a clear sign that my consistency was improving and that the practice was paying off. However, right as we lined up, I noticed the driver in P2 seemed very eager. You can usually tell by how people position themselves on the grid, so I made a mental note to be extra careful into turn 1. By the time we hit turn 2 and 3, both P2 and P3 had managed to hold the inside line. In the past, I might have tried to fight that, but this time I did everything I could to just give them space and safely slot it into P3. There's a common saying that you can't win a race in the first lap, but you can certainly lose it. So many races end right there in the initial corners because of unnecessary ego. For me, playing it safe and actually finishing the race has become the first principle. On the second lap, the driver in P2 made a move to take the position back. He managed to get through, but he carried too much speed, missed the apex of T3, and lost the position to both of us immediately. He wasn't giving up though. Going into turn 5, he launched a dive bomb and reclaimed second place. Even though it was an aggressive move, it was legitimate. In moments like that, I have a responsibility too. I have to give the space and make sure the overtake happens safely. The situation got even tighter at the exit of T6 when P1 fumbled his exit. Suddenly, all three of us were lined up nose to tail, and the tension really started to rise. As we headed into turn 9, I decided to test the driver ahead with a dummy move. I darted toward the inside just to show my nose in his mirrors before pulling back to the normal racing line. I'm not sure if it was the pressure of seeing me there or just a mistake on his part, but at the exit of the turn, he oversteered and lost his momentum. I didn't have to force a dangerous move or dive down the inside, I just stayed close enough to capitalize on the error. He slid wide, and I simply took the position back. It was a perfect example of how being patient and putting a little bit of tactical pressure on the car ahead can lead to an overtake without any contact. By lap 3, I was starting to find where I was faster. I managed to get a much better exit out of turn 3 and really started to lean on P1. I noticed he was consistently struggling with his line through turn 6, so I started planning to make my move in that section of the circuit. He pushed too hard over the curb entering turn 5, and just like I expected, a gap opened up at the entry of turn 6. I went for it, but I couldn't quite tuck the car in tight enough. I gave P1 a hit, which completely broke my balance. My car drifted helplessly toward the apex, and because I was suddenly so slow, P3 couldn't avoid me and gave me another hit from behind. It was like a small electric shock that brought all those bad memories from the Porsche Cup right back to the surface. For a second, seeing my bumper lying on the road, I thought I was headed straight for the iRacing gulag on the back of a tow truck. But luckily, the car still moved. The steering was bent. I had to hold the wheel at an angle just to go straight, but it was controllable. I put it in gear and kept going. Unfortunately, P3 wasn't as lucky as I was. Their race ended right there in the gravel. Looking back at the footage, I definitely feel the blame for that chain reaction. It's a frustrating part of sim racing, but we've all been on both sides of these incidents. There's no point in judging. I can only apologize for the mistake and learn from it. I fell all the way down to P8. It was a sharp reminder that even when you're trying to be a clean driver, mistakes happen the moment you lose focus or get too greedy for a gap. The rest of the race was just about bringing a broken car home and accepting the consequences of that one bad decision. I started lap 4, sitting in P7, still wrestling with the bent steering. As I was heading into turn 3, which is easily one of the most critical corners on this track, a classic sim racing scenario unfolded right in front of me. The drivers in P5 and P6 got too aggressive with each other, and both ended up in the dirt. Just by staying on the track and keeping my wounded car moving, I gained 2 positions back. Approaching turn 5, I noticed the yellow flag warning on my mini-map. As I drove past, I saw a car spun out and sitting in the grass. In the heat of the moment, I didn't even realize it was P1, the leader from our earlier battle. It turns out he finally pushed a bit too hard through turn 6, the same spot he'd been struggling with all race, and this time he couldn't save it. At the exit of turn 8, something almost miraculous happened. The driver in P3 suddenly oversteered and went straight off the track, completely clearing the way for me. I couldn't believe it. Despite the collision and the bent steering, I was somehow back in a podium spot. I had a decent gap to P4, so my focus shifted entirely to survival. All I was thinking about was managing the remaining 2 laps and bringing this car home on the podium. Even if I lost a spot and finished in the top 5, it would still be a successful result and a good haul of points. But after everything that happened in this race, holding on to that P3 felt like the ultimate goal. As I entered the final lap, the gap to the leaders started to shrink rapidly. Because P1 and P2 were fighting so hard for the win, they were compromising their lines and slowing each other down. I managed to pull within a second of them, and for the first time since the accident, I could actually feel their slipstream pulling me along. History repeated itself at the exit of turn 6. P1 made another mistake, and the momentum loss was so sudden that it forced P2 to check up right in front of me. Just like that, the gap was gone. We were nose to tail, back to back, entering the final sequence of corners at Navarra. The exit from turn 8 was perfect for both of us, but I had the momentum. As we approached turn 9, I saw my opening and claimed the inside line. This is one of the best overtaking zones on the track if you get it right, but it's incredibly risky because of how tight the corner is. By the time we hit the entry of turn 10, the move was complete. I focused everything on staying tight and maximizing my speed through those final bends. It felt surreal. I had gone from a mid-race collision and a bent steering wheel to potentially stealing P2 on the very last lap. I just had to keep it together for a few more seconds to turn a disaster into a massive result. The final few corners were incredibly tight, but I held my nerve and brought the car home on the podium. Given that my steering was bent for more than half the race, finishing in P2, P3 felt like a massive victory. The numbers backed it up too. I walked away with another +7 for iRating. Unfortunately, because of the contact at turn 6 and a few off tracks while wrestling the damaged car, I lost 0.02 safety rating. At this stage of my journey, that's a trade-off I'm perfectly fine with. If there is one lesson to take away from this race, it's this. Always push to the end if the car is still moving. After that hit in turn 6, it would have been so easy to park the car and give up out of frustration. But by staying out there, I didn't just salvage my iRating, I turned a disaster into a podium. In sim racing, as in life, things won't always go perfectly. You'll get hit, you'll make mistakes, and your steering might get bent out of shape. But if you keep your head down and stay in the fight, you'll be amazed at how many opportunities find you. Before we wrap up, I have to show you one more race from this week that was a massive learning experience. I managed to put down an amazing 1 minute 58 seconds and 0 milliseconds in qualifying my personal best and secured pole position once again. I felt untouchable, and for the first 2 laps, everything was going perfectly. Then, at the end of lap 2, I pushed just a bit too far in turn 13 and went off track. iRacing slapped me with a slowdown penalty. I tried to be clever and carry it into the next lap to find a better place to bleed off the speed, but with the latest updates, that is a dangerous game. If you don't serve it immediately, the penalty time actually starts to increase. I finally melted the penalty down at the start of lap 3, but the cost was high. I watched the lead disappear and dropped back to P3. It was a frustrating moment, but a necessary reminder that the rules have changed. Trying to manage a penalty often hurts more than just taking the hit right away. I stayed glued to the back of P2, and for a while, it was some of the closest racing of the night. But then, entering turn 12, disaster struck. I don't know exactly how I misjudged it, but I gave him a bump from behind, just enough to send him into a spin. It was a terrible feeling. I wasn't happy with myself at all. My first instinct was to stop and wait for him to recover. But I was right in the middle of the racing line, with the rest of the pack coming up fast. Caught in that split second of indecision, I just let the following cars pass me before getting back on the gas. I found myself down in P4. Even though I was still technically in the hunt for a good result, the mood had completely shifted. The race wasn't going in my favor anymore, and, more importantly, I had that heavy feeling in my stomach knowing I had ruined someone else's race. I spent the rest of the race chasing down the leaders, trying to put the mistake at turn 12 behind me. We came into the final lap, and as we approached turn 3, which, as I keep saying, is the most critical corner at Navarra, the pressure finally told. The driver in P2 made a mistake and spun off. Just like that, I was back on the podium. Not only did that gift me a position, but the chaos also slowed down the car ahead. I went from being a few seconds back to being right on his tail for the final half of the lap. Coming out of turn 6, P1 made a small mistake that checked up P2 and ruined his drive. I saw the stumble, and was absolutely dedicated to taking advantage of it. I kept my foot pinned, carried all my momentum through the slight kink of turn 7, and claimed the inside line heading into turn 8. It was a decisive move. By the time we hit the apex of turn 8, I had the position secured. After starting on pole, falling to P4, and dealing with the guilt of the earlier contact, fighting back to P2 in the closing seconds of the race felt incredible. It was the perfect way to cap off a roller coaster of a week at Navarra. This second-place finish was a huge boost, giving us plus 76 points and pushing my iRating up to 1597. But the best part of the result was seeing Luca on the podium in P3. I felt a massive weight off my shoulders. I immediately reached out to him after the checkered flag to apologize for the contact earlier. We had a very kind exchange. He was incredibly sportsmanship-like about it. I'm really happy he forgave me, but I want to take a second here on the channel to apologize to him publicly as well. Overall, week 3 at Navarra treated me very well. By the end of the week, I managed to climb all the way up to 1.7K iRating, while also nudging my safety rating up just a tiny bit. It proves that even with a few bumps in the road, consistency and a never-give-up attitude pay off. If you enjoyed this journey from the iRacing Gulag back to the podium, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. How do you handle it when you accidentally take someone out? Let's talk about it in the comments. See you in week 4.